I once witnessed a human consume meat that was still twitching. He smiled at me and offered some like it was nothing more than a friendly gesture. That should have been the first sign. But, like most of my species, I dismissed it as just another human eccentricity, one of many cultural anomalies we'd catalogued over the years. The way they hoarded caffeine, the way they laughed through pain. We treated these behaviors like curious psychological oddities, harmless, even charming in their chaos. Like children banging pots together. Odd, yes. Concerning, perhaps. But never threatening. That assumption nearly killed me. My name is Kesh. I was possibly, still am, an operative attached to the 19th Interstellar Expeditionary Corps, serving as a communications tactician. I was born on Cagstar V, trained in orbital logic strategy, fluent in 9 languages and 7 dialects. I am not, by any definition, a warrior. Before the Battle of Torvin's Hollow, I had never fired a weapon in combat, never even raised my voice in anger. My kind doesn't fight. We observe, we calculate, we support. Humans, though, humans fight. They fight as though the stars themselves have insulted their ancestors. They fight as if the laws of physics are merely suggestions to be scoffed at. And perhaps most unsettling of all, they enjoy it. Our alliance was born of necessity. The incursions weren't isolated events. They were the opening tide of a war destined to swallow entire systems. The consortium needed boots on the ground. Fast, brutal, unpredictable. The humans didn't respond with diplomacy. They responded with a battalion. I was assigned to the 87th Drop Infantry, colloquially known as the Laughing Dead. At first, I didn't understand the nickname. Not until Torvin, when the orders came down, I thought it had to be a mistake. We were being deployed into the Holoa region, so saturated with Xerax spores that entire sensor nets had gone blind. No recon, no maps, no guarantee of survival. Just a set of grid coordinates and a countdown. I flagged the discrepancy. My superior officer, Lieutenant Gray, listened as he chewed on something I later learned was called jerky assaulted, dried strip of animal flesh. He met my gaze and said, "It ain't a mistake, Kesh. It's Tuesday." That was when I first began to suspect there was something deeply, profoundly wrong with humans. We dropped at 0300. Local cycle into a mist that clung to the ground like it had weight. The atmosphere wasn't humid. It was dense, like standing inside a cloud of microthorns. The first thing I noticed was the silence. No wind, no movement. Even our boots on the mossy ground made no sound. The second thing I noticed, every single human was smiling. There were 12 of us 11 humans, 1 Caction observer. Me, I carried a pulse translator, 3 encrypted beacons, a sidearm I had never discharged, and a rapidly growing suspicion that I was about to die. Private Harrow was the first to speak. He looked around at the oppressive trees and fungal stalks, some of which leaned unnaturally toward our body heating, said, "Smells like home." The others laughed. This was not home. This wasn't even close to safe. The Xerax had sterilized this sector weeks ago. Their spores stripped flesh in seconds. Their warriors struck without warning, without noise, without fear. I, on the other hand, was already shaking. We advanced cautiously. At least, that's how I'd describe it. The humans called it taking a stroll. Corporal Dens lit a cigarette. I asked if the smoke would compromise our position. He shrugged and said, "They already know we're here. Might as well enjoy the trip." Enjoy. By the 4th kilometer, I was convinced the humans were either chemically altered or utterly insane. Their core temperatures ran hot. Their pupils stayed dilated. And despite the stress of traversing a confirmed Class 5 death zone, they kept telling jokes. I recorded the conversations for later psychological review. One involved a combat droid and an agricultural tool. I still don't understand the punchline. Then we hit the first nest. The attack was silent. One second we were passing a collapsed biodome. The next, Private Clem was gone. No scream, no warning, just a red streak across the foliage. The humans didn't panic. They didn't even flinch. Sergeant Arik raised his rifle and fired 3 rounds into the underbrush in 2 seconds. Flat. Something hissed. Something large. Eyes up, Eric said, calm as if telling a child to tie his shoes. Dens tossed a flare not standard issue. It emitted both light and high-frequency pulses. It caught the Xerax mid-pounce. 8 limbs, no eyes, a mouth that split in 4 directions. It recoiled slightly. Harold shot it in the throat. The throat. I didn't even know they had throats. More came. They always come. They didn't scream. They didn't growl. They just moved, gliding across wet terrain, like living shadows. I should have run. I should have activated the beacon and called for retreat. But I didn't. I froze not out of terror, but out of confusion. Because the humans, they were laughing. Private Rowe had taken a hit to the leg and was still firing into the trees, cackling something about Tuesday's specials. Lieutenant Gray was beside him, applying a pressure seal with one hand and returning fire with the other. No one barked orders. No one begged for help. They moved like muscle memory, fluid, dirty, precise. Amid the chaos, Dens shouted, "Kesh, got eyes up top." I looked. Somehow, I was still recording. My fingers were locked around the sidearm I had never used. I had no training, no instinct. But I nodded. "Good," he said. "Let us know if anything comes from the canopy. These creeps, like the high drop." High drop. I looked up and saw it clinging to the branches like a nightmare spider. Its limbs were long and hooked, its talons sinking into bark with surgical silence. The canopy seemed to absorb it. Only the shimmer of acidic saliva gave it away. A single drop hit my visor, hissing before the self-seal kicked in. I didn't think. I called it out. Incoming. Rowe didn't look. He shifted, raised his rifle, and fired into the air in a single smooth motion. The Xerax landed hard. Too hard. It recovered. It lunged again. Alric tackled it mid-air. The thing's claws tore into his side, but he shoved a charge into its center mass and detonated point blank. When the smoke cleared, Alric was bleeding but standing. The Xerax was not. "Nice catch," Rowe said. "Buy me lunch next time," Alric grunted. I should have been horrified. Bits of armor, fluid, and pheromones coated the clearing in a thick, chemical stench. But the humans advanced. I stumbled after them, legs weak. My translator buzzed, overwhelmed. Dens cursed his jammed rifle. Harrow joked about dental benefits. Gray said nothing. He only spoke when we reached the ridge. Torvin's hollow stretched below us like the open mouth of a beast, wisting fungal towers, glowing strands, dozens, maybe hundreds of nests. The terrain moved in places. "This is it," Gray said. "Sir," I said, "this is suicide. That's why we're here." It made no tactical sense. I accessed my uplink. A blinking red band confirmed it. Directive 9. Disruption strike. We weren't meant to survive. We were baked. Civilians were evacuating in a nearby system. We had to hold attention long enough for them to escape. I turned to the squad. They already knew. "Of course," I whispered. "You all knew." Dens lit. "Another cigarette?" "We know lots of things." Rowe shrugged. "We've done worse odds." Arik was setting charges. I felt sick. We weren't built for sacrifice. But these humans, these lunatics, they laid their deaths into the soil like seeds. Gray knelt beside me. "Kesh, you've got the uplink running." I nodded. "Then record this next part." I did. They moved without instruction. Claymores set along spore trails. EMPs clipped to fungal stalks. Harrow dragged a corpse into the open to bait movement. Rowe painted targets while humming an off-key tune. Through it all, the laughter. Gray asked me, You ever seen an overload burst? I shook my head. You're about to. We would trigger a chain reaction through the hollow's root line. A networked nervous system. Disrupt it, and it all burns. We die. But they notice. The spores stirred. They were coming. 30 Xerax warriors emerged, twice the height of a man, armored in hunger. Gray raised his rifle. He grinned. Welcome to Tuesday. They hit us like a storm of claws and silence. Rowe fired. First, one down. Dens followed. Alric, wounded, launched a grenade. Only one fell. The rest didn't slow. I couldn't fire. I was frozen, not with fear because of it. It paralyzed me, Kesh. Gray barked. Front left, 4 meters. Focus. I turned. It was close. It tilted its head, studying me. I fired. Hit the leg. It stumbled. Dens finished it. Nice aim, he said. Something inside me shifted. The ridge turned to hell. Eric behind a fungal column. Harrow patching Rowe. Every Xerax down was replaced by 2 more. The charges were almost set. Almost. Missing final node. Gray yelled. Dens, status, dead trigger, dislodged. I'll go, Gray said. No, I said. I will. They turned to me. Even mid-battle, they paused. I grabbed the spare and ran. I don't remember the terrain. Only motion mist, shapes, fire. I found the charge broken, buried. I fixed it by instinct. The mist moved. The Xerax closed in. I set the final contact. Red light. I ran back. Gray pulled me down. Manual trigger. Yes. Good. Now we play keep away. The swarm adapted. Spiraled. Cut off retreats. Gray killed one up close. Dens crushed another's jaw with a rifle butt. I picked up Rowe's repeater and fired. One Xerax charged me. I hit its jaw. Gray finished it. You still breathing? He asked. Yes. Good. Stay that way. Then the signal flashed green dot. All charges ready. Gray pointed at me. On your mark. But they don't need a witness cache. They need a record. He pressed the detonator into my hand. Go. I ran. I reached the safe zone. Turned. Raised the beacon. Pressed the button light. Not a flash in unmaking. The hollow tore itself apart. Fire followed. The ridge vanished in smoke. Silence. Silence. The uplink confirmed. Feed received. Evacuation complete. The mission succeeded. I didn't feel victorious. I felt hollow. Debriefing took days. Footage spread across systems. They called it the stand at Torvin Ridge. Medals were given. Posthumous honors. I was offered reassignment. I declined. I went to Earth. It was loud, alive, laughter in the streets, arguments, music, life. Near a park was a memorial. A quote in stone. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's bringing it with you and charging anyway. No author. I don't know if Gray said it, but he lived it. I opened my recorder, played the last 20 minutes of raw audio. Just their voices, laughing, joking, and Gray, at the very end. Kesh will tell it right. He always does. I don't know if I did, but I know what I felt. I felt fear, and I learned something. Humans don't erase fear. They weaponize it, and for one terrible, unforgettable die carried it with them.